Now we're going on to Amud Beis, and we're still analyzing this principle that we just established that according to Rabbi Shimon, the word kahuna alone, without the word etzba, is not enough, not sufficient to warrant a critical requirement of Yad Yamin. For a zrika, the loksiv be'ela kahuna, in the case of zrikas hadam, the Torah didn't add the word etzba. And therefore, according to our understanding of Reb Shimon, right hand would not be sufficient. Imagine the Kohen could do the zrika with his left hand. Usnan zorek b'small posel v'lo poglu Reb Shimon. We have a Mishnah, and the Mishnah is a stam Mishnah, which means it's not doesn't mention any dissenting view, and that means that Reb Shimon by silence is shtika kodah dummy, and it says zorek b'small posel. Why? It only says Kohen. It doesn't say etzba. Amar Abaye. Polig bibaraisa, even though the Mishnah omitted mention of the name of Reb Shimon, but in a brisa, Reb Shimon's dissenting view was explicitly mentioned. The Sanya, we went to the brisa kibbutz small pasul Reb Shimon machshir, zark small pasul Reb Shimon machshir. Machshir means that Reb Shimon, right, insists that since it only has kahuna and it doesn't have etzba, therefore Yamin is not essential, it's not critical, and therefore, if he did either the Kabbalah Saddam with his left hand or he did even the Zrika with his left hand, everything is fine because the Torah only mentions kahuna and doesn't mention the word etzba. Now, I just want to mention here that Tosfos, I've never seen this before, so that's why I mentioned it to you. It says here utnan, and it says in the Mishnah Zarek b'small posel. Guess what? There ain't no such Mishnah. Wow. The Gemara is quoting a Mishnah that doesn't exist. And you'll see it on the second line on the top on your right column in the Tosfos, Tema, the Ein Zeh b'Mishnah, b'Shum Makom. I mean, obviously Tosfos knew all the Mishnayos in Shas, and he said there ain't no such Mishnah. The Ode, now he has a kash from Rav Yaakov Merlinish, on my polig Rav Shimon, Nehi de lo ksiv be'el kahuna mikomakom isa mihekesh de zos Torahs ha. All right, this Tosfos. Anyway, Omar Abaye. Abaye says that we have a brisa that explicitly quotes Reb Shimon as the dissenting view, and therefore both the Kabbalah Saddam and the Zrika Saddam could be implemented by the left hand, according to Reb Shimon, because it only says kahuna and it doesn't say etzba. V'elaha diomar rava. Now let's get back to Menachos. Yad lekmitza lamali mikahuna nafka. Let's go back to the shita of the Chachamim who hold that if you have either kahuna or you have etzba, we know that you require the right hand. And in the case of kmitza, of the kmitza of the Kohen, when he initiates the process of the mincha, the Torah says yad. The Torah uses the term yad. Now, we're going to have to see the pasuk inside, but in any event, it says yad. And yad indicates the right hand. We're going to see that later on. I think it's maybe the next block or so. So now the Gemara says, why do we need yad? And not only that, we have a gzera shava of yad, that, again, if we want to, let me just mention the gzera shava here so we don't skip that. I know we're running. Oh, we have another few minutes. 1 second. Oh, it says in the parsha of the Mitzorah of the Ashir, it says, Yitena Kohen al tnuch ozen amitar hayemonis, ve'al boin yodo hayemonis, ve'al boin raglo hayemonis. So if you notice, it says Yado Hayamanis. So the word Yad is very important. And the word Yad appears in Kmitza as well. So that's the Gzeira Shava that teaches you Yad means Yemanis. And therefore, Kmitza has to be implemented with the right hand. But now we're holding that the word kahuna, according to the Rabbanon of Reb Shimon, is sufficient to teach us that you require the right hand. So why do I need Rava's Gzeira Shava of Yad Yad to derive in Kmitza the right hand from Mitzora? I mean, I don't need that Gzeira Shava. Forget about Mitzora. Let's just derive it from the fact that it says kahuna. And the Gemara says chad lekomitz v'chad lekiddush komitz. You may recall, I mean, depending on when you were learning where and so forth. But anyway, we learned that there are two parts to the process of a korban mincha. There's the kmitza, and then there's kiddush kli. So we have to take the kmitza after the kmitza was implemented by the kohen, and we have to receive it in a kli, and that kli is makadesh the kmitza. And then we could take the kmitza, the kometz, and put it on the fire of the mizbeach. So basically now we have kmitza number one, that's the first action, and that requires yad yamin. And now we have another yad yamin requirement, and that is kiddush, when the kometz is placed into a kli sharis. And only after that kiddush process takes place, only then can the kohen take that kmitza, that kometz, and put it on the mizbeach. Now the Gemara says, wait a minute, I don't know that you need that Gzeira Shava because the Reb Shimon de Loboy Kiddush Kometz. What about Reb Shimon? Reb Shimon holds that it's enough that you take the Kometz directly from the Kohen onto the Mizbech. You don't have to receive it in a Kli and be Makadosh it. So therefore you're telling me I need a second Gzeira Shava, meaning the second limud to teach me Yad Yamin for the Kiddush. There's no Kiddush according to Rav Shimon. And furthermore, Ulaman di Omer Nami Deboy Kiddush Kometz L'Rav Shimon. There is one opinion, Machlokas Amoroim, later on in Masechet Menachos, whether Rav Shimon requires Kiddush. But even according to the Man Omer, who says Rav Shimon does in fact require Kiddush, but Ubismol Achshuri Machshir. I think what the Gemara is saying is that we've already established that according to Rav Shimon, since all you find in Kmitza, in the parish of Kmitza, you only find the word kahuna, you don't find the word etzpa. Therefore, if the Kohen does the Kmitza with his left hand, it's kosher. And by definition, therefore, when he's Makadosh in a Kli, he could use his left hand. So yad yad derav alamali. So what is this Gzeira Shava yad yad that we're deriving Kmitza from Mitzora, that you need the right hand? What is that Gzeira Shava establishing? And the Gemara answers, "Ila kmitza gufa, I'll leave the Rav Shimon, Rav Yehuda, Rav Yehuda Nafka." Right, the Omer, Rav Yehuda, Rav Shimon, Chazia, my time, the Rav Shimon, the Omer, Kra Kodesh Kadoshim, he kachatos v'kasham. Why and how does Rav Shimon derive the conclusion that as far as the kmitza of a korban mincha is concerned, you need the yad yamin, you need the right hand, and that's based on the fact that the Torah compares mincha, classifying it as kodesh kadoshim like chatos and like asham, and we know that in chatos and asham we need the right hand. Bali ovda biyad. Now this is very interesting. Because if you look at the pasuk carefully, the comparison of kmitza and menachos is to two different karbanos. The Torah explicitly says kechatos uka osham. Why a double comparison? And the Gemara answers that when it comes, again, this is all according to Rav Shimon. When it comes to the avoda of a korban mincha, then he has two options. Ovda biyamin, he could do the avoda. For example, he does the kmitza with his right hand. That's certainly a good option, and that's kechatos, because in all the avodas of a chatos, you need the right hand. That's explicit. But bali ovda bekli, let's say that he doesn't want to. Again, let's just go over this one more time. We're deriving right hand in kmitza for Rabbi Shimon from the comparison between a mincha and a chatos and an osha. So what's the double comparison? So we're saying now that if the Kohen does the avoda biyad, which I think is referring to the kmitza itself. Let me just see if he points that out. Oh, I see. Because again, Reb Shimon holds that you don't require kiddush kli for a mincha, meaning you could take the mincha and right after the komets, just simply take the komets and put it on the mizbeach without putting it into a kli. And that's called babi ovdo biyad, is ovdo biyamin. So that means that the kmitza has to be done with the right hand because the Torah equates mincha with chatos. But if he's not putting the kmitza into a kli and he decides, which is his option, to take, according to Reb Shimon, to take that kmitza and put it directly onto the mizbeach without going through the medium of a kli, then that's fine. But bali of the kli, if the Kohen decides to, how should I say, opt? Is that a word? Yeah, opt for using a kli and carrying the komets to the mizbeach with a kli, then he can do it with his left hand. And why can he do it with his left hand? Because the Torah has a double comparison, and the comparison is also to an asham. And with regard to a korban asham, then apparently the left hand is done. Okay, not every korban asham. We're talking about the asham of a mitzorah. Okay, so again, from the comparison between the mincha to the chatos, it means that the kmitza, which is done with his hand, has to be done with his right hand, like in chatos. But if, on the other hand, we want, pardon the pun, but if at the same time we want to derive something from asham, then we're talking about the Kohen who decided to carry the komets to the mizbeach in a kli, and if he does that, then he could use his left hand. So now we're stuck with Rava's Gzeira Shava, right? Because Mimonafshach, if we're talking about Kmitza, then we have the pasuk of Kodesh Kadoshim Kuchatas Kiyashim. And if we're talking about bringing it onto the Mizbeach, then he could use his left hand. So where does the Gzeira Shava of Rava, where does it come to the fore? Yad Yad. Lo nitzchol komets the minchas chote salke daitka mina hov yomer Rabbi Shimon shloi korban mahudar ki komets leinami this small tis kasha kamashval. Wow, this is a pellet. You may remember that the chote who brings a korban mincha, his mincha is very austere, if I could use that word, meaning it doesn't allow for any fancy stuff. There's no shemen, there's no levona. we're not going to do it mahudar. How does he translate the word mahudar? Let's see how elegant. Yeah, I forgot elegant. Okay, so if the minchas chote is not elegant, you might think that the Torah is sort of like mashpil. It's like putting down the carbon minchas chote, and therefore let the Kohen use his left hand for kamitza kamashma. And that's why I need the Gzereshov of Rava of Yad Yad to teach me that even in the case of minchas chote, you must have the right hand. And now the Gemara goes on. 1 second. To discuss a different part of the Mishnah. And we'll just read it because we have officially 1 or 2 more minutes. And it says, Kamatz v'ola b'yodo tzrar o gargar melach. Right, we said that the kamatz has to be mole, it has to be complete. And now he finds in the kmitza that it's got pebbles or it has salt, some sort of grains. O karet levona daf yudav, karet levona means levona apostle. And the reason is because you need a certain volume of flour that is brought for the mincha. Now it's not sholem because part of the flour is now being replaced by these different things. Is kolhani lumali? Why do you have to give me all these three examples? Trichadika tonat tzrar mishum delav basakrovahi. Avol melech de basakrovahi ematis kasher. Right? The Torah says, "I'll call carbon echad tasim melech." You have to add salt to every single carbon. So maybe the salt is just part of the carbon, and it doesn't take up space and make it, halal, of space. And therefore, I think it's kosher viton a melach velo ikva bahani mincha meikara. You might say that if the Mishnah would teach me that what? That ah, let's keep in mind that the salt for a carbon is added at a later stage. So you don't add the salt into the mincha at the very beginning, and therefore it's a foreign substance, and it reduces the volume of the kema. But avalavono de ikva bahari mincha meikara, when you first mix the mincha in its original ingredients, then you've got the flour, you've got the oil, and you've got the levona. So levona is already part and parcel of the carbon, and therefore it is kasher, even though this levona is being taken from the outside, but maybe it'd be kosher. Okay, then this is where we'll stop for today. And what's tomorrow? Tomorrow is, I think, 9:30, if I'm not mistaken. Just double check the schedule. Okay, then wishing you a great day. Thank you so much.